Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiest Journey with Dr. Den podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Den, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French and English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMB Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found on lifecoachdanamzalak.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our third episode of season 15, a very special guest and creator of the Whatsnext program, Lauren St. George. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Lauren, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me. My name, as you just heard, is Lauren St. George, and I am a coach and consultant. My What's Next program is my latest love and joy and passion. It's where I help people to figure out what they want to do next in their life, and that's usually around pivotal moments. When we find ourselves asking that question of what's next for me, and that could be everything from major changes in career to divorce or empty nester. You want to think about your retirement. But those times when we find ourselves saying, what's next? And oftentimes it's usually when we're feeling stuck and we can't honestly see what we want to do next. And that's where I come in.
Good, good. Thank you so much for being on the show, Lauren. And it's interesting that you have a program called What's Next, because also I've noticed in entrepreneurs, when they reach their milestone, either in their business or their company, whatever it is, in the back of their mind, say, okay, I did this. What's next? What's my next goal? What's my next venture? What's my next whatever business or whatever it is? So this What's Next program, what really is the core denominator in that program? Is it mostly the spiritual aspect, the career aspect of things? What do you focus most on?
I actually I'm open to everything, and I think that's the beauty of it. I run it as a group coaching program, so it's usually 4 to 7 people, and they're coming in with different challenges. I would say about 50% of the people that come to me, it's some kind of a career challenge, whether it's changing lanes or am I going to go start that small business I've always thought about but never have. And then the other 50% of people really run the gamut, and it could be everything from I'm just looking for more fulfillment in my life, or I want to get my mojo back. I've lost something and I need to find it again. And like I said, those transitional moments in your life. So I don't specialize in any of that, because the process that I use is really about people problem solving. And I believe at the end of the day, it's about asking the right questions, and the answers are within us. It takes the time of actually focusing on yourself and asking the right questions, I think, to uncover what it is that you want to do next.
So the what next when it comes to people who are in the midst of their divorce, do they think about what is going to be my life after that? Do they those who come to your program, is it also based on relationship demise, or what exactly? How do you sort the group? Do you sort them by career, by relationship, by spiritual enlightenment? What exactly is the case?
I don't sort the group. Again, it's because the power in the group to me is that people are coming in with different life experiences, with different expertise, with different ideas. And so fundamentally, I believe if we keep asking the same question, you keep getting the same results. And so to really disrupt thinking, I like having a group of people that just have a variety of backgrounds and thoughts and ideas, so that as people share what their particular challenge is and their journey, that you have this now group of people who are invested in helping you find some ideas. And so when we get to about midway in the program, part of what we do is we brainstorm and we go as broad and as wild as we can. And so the more that the people have shared in the group about what their particular challenge is, I believe that that group of people can actually pull from their experience, their expertise, to offer up some thinking that maybe you haven't thought of before. Because oftentimes we get stuck in our own heads thinking in circles, And so this is an opportunity to break people out of that. And at the end of the day, the program's called What's Next because it's like, what's the next step that I'm going to take? It's not the rest of your life. So I fundamentally believe that to break out of a place of feeling stuck, you got to do a step. You got to take a step in some direction. So, I certainly look to help people find those ahas and thinking that they haven't had before. But I feel like we're successful if they at least leave the group and go and do something. It might not be the right something, but it's going to get you on that path to finding the right something.
But is there any customization in your program based on each case by case scenario? If someone is dealing with a struggle relationship and they talk about those struggles, while someone is dealing with a career blockage or roadblock, which is something completely different, do you offer a one-on-one like program that you will primarily focus on the issue that they're facing versus having to deal with or juggle with all the issues in the group?
I do one-on-one coaching as well. So at the beginning, when someone finds me, when they come to me, we have a conversation. We really talk about the options of, is this more of a one-on-one conversation that you want to have and have focused time with me, or is this something that makes sense to do in a group situation? And certainly while they're in the group, they have full access to me throughout that time. We can jump on a call at any point if we need to really talk about a specific thing. And I certainly don't force people to talk about specific things within the program. It's as much as they want to give to the group and they want to bring to the group, knowing that the more vulnerable and honest you are to yourself at the end of the day, the better your outcome is going to be. But there's no requirement for the group itself. So certainly we do talk at the beginning about what's the kind of experience that they want, because for people who come to me that are not stuck, but they have an idea that they want to, really flesh out, come up with the strategy, because my background's in branding and marketing as well. If they've got something that's on the business realm, they want to launch a company, we can do one-on-one coaching on that side of things, because they're not coming from that place of feeling stuck. So if they need alternative services, I do provide those as well.
So, what is the biggest roadblock that, based on all the coaching group that you've dealt with in the past, that seems to be repetitive, seems to be redundant among most clients? So, at least that will give a better perspective to all of our listeners. What should they expect from your program?
Well, I think it's the biggest thing that I'm finding for people is mindset. So there's absolutely, you need a plan, and I believe that at the end of a program, to be successful, I want people to walk away with a plan. These are the steps that I'm going to take when I leave here and put them into action. But I think the other piece that I'd be remiss on if we didn't cover is mindset. And so the number one sort of mindset thing that we come up against time and time again is either fear of change or it's fear of failure. And that's oftentimes the thing that's holding people back, and stopping them from taking that step. So I talk about strategies and things that they can do, and ways of shifting mindset, so that hopefully not only do they have the plan, but they've also got some of those other pieces in place, so that they can keep going, and be successful.
But as you and I know, Lauren, that fear, the acronym is false expectation appearing real, which is something that is constructed by the subconscious mind. Now, when those limiting beliefs that they absorb, that they take from within, how do you break them apart for them to realize that this fear is not present? It's just something that you created, and it's just have to find a way to go around it.
There's a variety of tools that we use in the group. I think partly being in a group allows you to see that you're not alone in how you're feeling, right? And there's power in that. I think understanding, I think how our brains work. We talk a bit about that. That we are built to our brain is built to keep us safe, wants us to stay comfortable, wants us to stay in routines and patterns, and that when anything new is presented, it's seen as threatening, which is why that little voice inside your head is smacking it down and going, no, that's not a good idea, or I can't do that, or well, that little voice that's going. I think I truly believe that once people understand how their brains work, they're better positioned to be able to say, no, I hear that voice, but I don't believe that voice. And then it's about what's the positive programming that you can put in place, because our brains can either work for us or against us. And so I think when you can harness their ability to work for you, and you have those kind of hacks and those things in place that can really, change the mindset, change the pattern, change the language, the voice that's in your head, you're much more likely to be successful.
Now, as you know, you mentioned about the fear of the unknown, which always stop people on their track to be able to take this next step forward. But if you help them create possible scenarios about if you do this, what can be the outcome of that? So the unknown is no longer unknown as something that they created, those scenarios that may or may not happen. Now, if they try to say, what is the three best scenario and the three worst scenarios? So if they know what they are, now they should not fear the outcome because said, okay, if it happens this way, I know what will be the plan B or the plan C or whatever it is. So is it something, a practice that people should adapt? Because the unknown is because we have not prepared ourselves for what's coming next.
Absolutely. So, by the time we're in a place of putting a plan together for them, one of the things that I do is kind of risk mitigation. So we look at what are the possible things that could come up that could get in your way, and let's start to already think about how are you going to overcome that. Um, you can't account for absolutely everything, but I think that if you at least give them the tool that allows them to go, okay, this popped up. This is what I'm going to do to get around it. You at least provide someone with a tool that they can use should something different pop up that they weren't accounting for, because we can't think of everything. Usually the things we plan for don't happen. It's usually the things we don't plan for that happen. But yeah, I think my hope is that when people leave my program, they not only have that plan, but they have the tools that they can then implement and use for the rest of their life. So that to me is key. And yes, I think you have to think about what possibly could go wrong, and kind of meet the naysayer that's in your head and go, I see you, I raised you, I've got a solution should that happen. Because I think that's sound business, and a lot of the methods that I use come from the business world, and I think work just as well when you're, running your own life.
And does that work the same with limiting belief that they have grown throughout the years, either because of trauma, because of not being not feeling honored or respected, whatever it is. And because of this, they always hesitate to be able to take the next step forward. And that in itself creates that, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not this or that, whatever it is. So how do you change that mindset? I mean, the limiting belief is one thing. The fear is something else. So how do you go with it?
So limiting beliefs, certainly the sort of imposter syndrome that pops its head up all the time. We start in week one. We start with looking at what are your strengths, reminding yourself about all of the good that you have and all of the strengths that you have, and we look at that both from an inside out and an outside in perspective. So we'll do an accounting of that for each person will do that for themselves. But then I actually have it's a fun survey, but a survey that I get them to send out to people within their life to say, what are the strengths that you see within me? What are those moments that stand out when we've interacted that have meant something to you? What are areas that you think I might be interested in that I've never thought about? And then where do you see some watch outs? Because weaknesses, watch outs, it doesn't mean that a lot of the people I work with tend to be 40 plus. I think you know yourself pretty well by that point. So something that might be written as a weakness is actually probably something you just don't want to go down that road, right? You've got that don't go list.
Yes.
So, we start by that, because I think if you take that inventory and you remind yourself again about all the fantastic things that you have and the strengths that you have, we start to break down some of that. But at the end of the day, um, for limiting beliefs, for the imposter syndrome, that's something that you're going to have to break down and work against repetitively. It's not something that we can take care of in 1 week. So, we certainly talk again about strategies, whether that's affirmations or mantras or things that you can start to use within your day-to-day life, so that you can counteract some of those limiting beliefs that come up.
Now, is it like favorable to be able to allow each and every one, either they use your program or not, to be able to write down the list of their strength, the list of their weaknesses, because sometimes people also fear what they're weak at because they do not want to be vulnerable. They do not want to feel less smart than somebody else. They will never really project those weaknesses to other people to see. So, but also by doing this, they hide them from within. And we can only become stronger person when we know what we're weak at. So how can people, if let's say anyone or the listeners actually can take something out of this podcast, I want them
Mhm.
to kind of like put this into action because we can talk for hours, you and I, Lauren. We can talk about the different strategies, but if you don't put anything into practice, you're going to accomplish nothing. So if they want to take something out of it, what would be the five most important point for you to share to them?
So I think if we're looking at the strengths and weaknesses tool, I think, certainly it's making sure that that strength list is longer than your weakness list, because most people are going to find it easier, I think, to knock themselves down than to put the strengths in there. So don't cop out, don't let yourself off the hook. The other, I think, is to look at those strengths and go, which of these strengths can I actually use to overcome some of these weaknesses?
Okay.
Um, and then I think looking at the weaknesses and going, well, I might have put mathematics as a weakness. Well, then I'm not going to become an accountant. So at least look at those things on the list and say which are the ones that I want to address, which are the ones that I just accept as that's part of who I am, and which ones have made it to my I don't need to do that list, right? Their weaknesses when you're younger can mean different things too. I think once you get later on in life. So, from that standpoint, I think it's a good exercise to do to account for those things. I think you then also need to add to another column, which is to look at what are the opportunities, what are the things that I might be interested in doing next. How can I take these strengths and actually bring them to the world, especially if you're looking for change or for a next step? Is like, how can I maximize on the strengths that I have, and how can I build on the experience that I already have in my life? So for people who are looking to change lanes in their career, it's how can I take these other skills and apply it to this, or looking at it from different ways to say, okay, I can build on what I've got. I'm not starting from scratch. I've lived a number of years at this point, so how can I take these strengths and take them into my next chapter?
So basically, you're doing a SWOT analysis of yourself. So you look
Basically, yes.
at opportunity and threats. Like you're not doing it for your business, but you're doing for your own self to be able to determine exactly where you stand. So the threats, are they the fear? Is that considered as a fear for yourself?
I've I've it's you caught onto it. It is a SWOT analysis for yourself. I've changed the threats to barriers, but swab sounds doesn't sound like an appealing thing. So absolutely, you could look at threats as the limiting beliefs. You could look at them as barriers. They could sometimes they're economic, sometimes they're environmental, whatever they are. Yes, absolutely. I think you're looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that are out in the world, and then the opportunities for yourself, and then those barriers. What are the things that could possibly get in the way? And then you can start to absolutely look at, well, how do my strengths overcome my weaknesses? How can my strengths overcome some of those barriers? How can opportunities, work with my strengths? And you can actually start to mix and match once you've got those columns filled out.
So to what level in your program, Lauren, that you encourage people to face their fears?
I always believe in having a good plan and then taking risk. I think the people that come to me are definitely at a tipping point where whatever it is has been going in their brain long enough that they've actually sought to do something about it. And so I encourage taking those steps, but doing it in a way that works for your life. Because change. I don't recommend for most people that you all of a sudden quit your job, divorce your spouse, and run off to another country. So it's really figuring out with each individual person where is their comfort zone, and then talking about, well, how can we push it to be to feel a little uncomfortable, because we've got to get out of that comfort zone, right? If we're going to get to growth, and to really changing our lives. So I think it's different per person, but I do certainly, try to get them to a place where they're comfortable enough to take that step. And then, we'll do subsequent calls as a group to check in with people, see how it's going, what progress have they made, and one of the things we talk about is compassion for yourself, because it's not a linear road, and there may be setbacks, there may be things that come up that prevent you from getting as far as you'd like to, but as long as you're still putting one foot in front of the other, and trying to live the steps, you'll get there, and it might not be in the same timeline than you imagined, but you'll get there.
Now, a standard program, if let's say, is it like an 8 week, 12 weeks? How does it work in terms of, because again, everyone is a case by case scenario, is not going to be linear. It's not going to be everyone's going to find the same result at the end of that program, give and take. So, is there like a specific, you mentioned about follow-up, but are those follow-up to see if they implemented the plan, if they put things into practicality, or is it something to say, okay, well, where did you go from after the program? Did you reach a milestone? How do you determine what is the best course of action for them?
So the program itself is 6 weeks, and it's pretty intensive. So certainly it's people have to commit to a specific amount of time each